Hi, I'm Andrew Fullinger with the FinTech Times. We're here at Insurtech Insights in London. Would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, I'm Henry Mascot. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Curacel.
Wonderful. Thanks, Henry. Would you mind telling us a little bit more about Curacel?
Sure. So at Curacel, we're building infrastructure to drive insurance penetration across Africa. So basically what we do is we build APIs that allow either insurance companies or businesses across the continent to easily embed insurance and to process insurance from Nigeria, Kenya, Uganda, Egypt, just across the continent.
Great. Thanks, Henry.
Yeah.
So can I ask, what kind of trends are we seeing currently in this sector in terms of the locations that you're working in?
Yeah. So in the past 2 to 3 years, again, COVID has changed a lot in the past 2 years. We're seeing a lot more digitization of insurance processes across the value chain. Insurance companies on the continent have not been the fastest in terms of like digital innovation, but 2020 they saw a period where they had to sit at home. They still had to sell policies, they still had to process claims and pay out claims. So we've seen insurance companies be a lot more open to digitization. So we're seeing a lot more digital transformation in terms of insurance across the continent of Africa. We're seeing, again, when we kind of like look at what kind of technologies or what kind of trends in terms of digitization, you're seeing things like claims automation, you're seeing things like digital distribution, insurance companies starting to digitize their broker value chain and stuff like that. And most recently, embedding insurance being like super exciting. So we've seen insurance companies starting to partner with companies to see, hey, how can we get insurance to more people through other channels? Right.
Yeah. And do you see collaboration as one of the main routes for sort of the growth of insurance within the continent?
Yes, 100%. So that's kind of like what our key business is about. Providing the technology that allows these insurance companies to easily collaborate with their stakeholders, with partners. So one of our partners like AXA, for instance, would you be able to use one of our APIs to connect with a fintech and be able to distribute their product through that fintech. So we've seen like a lot more collaboration happening, and it's easier if you have the right technology, right? Because the biggest challenge with trying to collaborate with third parties is if the process is manual, then like the number of stakeholders increases. So, internally there's a lot of processes, and externally. So we're seeing if the technology is the right one, then things can happen through APIs, processes are easier, stuff like that.
Great. Yeah. Absolutely. I understand that you've recently been taken on Y Incubator?
Y Combinator.
Y Combinator. So could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So Y Combinator is, again, it's the world's, I think, most successful startup accelerator program. So companies like, Airbnb, Coinbase, very big companies. I think so far YC has about 77 unicorns. Companies valued above $1 billion. And also on the continent of Africa, they've got some of the biggest African startups as well. Flutterwave, Paystack. Paystack sold for 200 million 2 years ago, and Flutterwave is valued at 3 billion recently. So very successful companies have gone through the program. So we've been very lucky to have been accepted in the program. So we're currently in the winter 22 batch. So we're currently in the batch right now. Demo day is in another 2 weeks. So it's super exciting. So being part of the program, again, you kind of like getting to the framework of how do you make this thing get big. So it's super exciting for us.
Yeah, no, it's a really big achievement.
It's a big deal.
It's a big deal. A question I had for you is regarding sort of blockchain and sort of how emerging technologies and AI and so on, the impact that it's having on the insurance industry and for you in particular with your organization.
Yeah. So again, like blockchain and AI has like massive potential, right? So one of the biggest problems around insurance, especially on the continent of Africa, is like trust, right? Around claims, right? Do you get paid when you should get paid? And one of the key things blockchain solves for is trust, right? So you don't need to trust an intermediary, right? You can do a smart contract, and as far as the claims checks out, payment is disbursed automatically. So this is still very early on the continent. We have a few POCs that we've run or we're running with like a few insurers. So on the continent of Africa, blockchain and like its deployment is super early stages, and a few insurance companies have tried a few POCs. But when it comes to AI, right, and so the AI, the value of AI is in automating processes, right? So where can you reduce the involvement of a human? Anything that requires like cognitive load, right? How can you reduce that and automate that using technology, right? And one of the key places is in claims processing, for instance, and fraud detection. So we've seen some of the biggest insurance companies on the continent, AXA, Liberty, Old Mutual, use some of our AI solutions to automate their healthcare claims and auto insurance claims as well. Because the challenge, right, is if you're an insurance company and you're processing hundreds of thousands of claims a quarter, right? You need maybe thousands of people or hundreds of people, right? And they need to work a lot around the clock. But if you can plug in some AI in there, you can automate that process and you can do all the things that would take you months. You can do it in a few minutes. So for our healthcare fraud detection products, we've seen insurance companies reduce the time they take in processing a claim from around 5 minutes to about 0.23 seconds. So we're seeing like when it comes to AI, we're seeing like insurance companies on the continent adopt that. Some of them are working with, again, companies like ours. We're still one of the only companies on the continent that actually provide AI technologies around claims, fraud detection. So that would be a very an easy way to answer the question.
Absolutely. And I think obviously there's a huge amount of opportunity there, but what are the major challenges? Obviously you've touched on one there, but what are the major challenges, like maybe infrastructure or
yes.
I don't know, what are the big challenges for your company?
For my company or for the industry?
I mean for both. I mean whichever.
Yeah. So again, like for us, really, like obviously we're in Insurtech. We've only like 2 years. 2 years plus company, and our background is in product, software, and technology. So we had to kind of like build the relationships required to sort of like get access to the insurance companies, especially the big ones. I think it's getting easier because we've been, we've been funded by Google programs, Facebook programs, now Y Combinator. So it's helping sort of like increase the trust of like brands like ours. But in the beginning there was access, right? So it's getting access to these insurance companies. But as we did POCs, as we signed up big brands, it became easier, right? We just signed the biggest health insurance companies in East Africa as well. So it's getting easier over time. So access was one of it. Again, insurance companies, are obviously they're in the business of managing risk. So they're not the fastest in terms of like adopting new technology, right? So we also had a bit of a challenge in that, like getting them to move quickly, because we're a startup, right? We want to move fast. And then the insurance companies are like, hey, take it easy and stuff like that. So that's one of the key challenges for our business. Again, for the industry, right? Especially for the insurance companies, is we've seen that a lot of them are using technologies that are a little bit older, so a bit legacy. I think you hear it even in the conference, even in Europe, you still hear a lot of the conversations around how the technology is still legacy, still the same thing on the continent. So which is where we're coming in as well, and we're trying to help and say, hey, we can help you build the right infrastructure, the right modules to leapfrog and use modern stuff.
Right, great, amazing. And then what would you say are your predictions for the future of the industry for the next 12 months and possibly further?
Yeah, I think one of the key things that we've seen, again, pretty much one of some of the things I've said. So we're going to see a lot more insurance companies digitize. Right. So in some of the countries we operate, there's still like pen and paper. So we're going to see a lot more of digitization of that, like value chain, and like a lot of the insurance companies moving to the cloud and less like pen and paper. Again, obviously as that happens, you're going to see automation of things like, policy handling, enrollment, claims, fraud. So a lot of the digitization of all that. And then a trend that we're super excited about is embedded insurance, right? Where again, insurance is not, nobody wakes up in the morning saying, hey, I'm looking forward to buying insurance. So it means, especially in the continent of Africa, where like, a lot of, so microinsurance is like a key thing actually. I should have actually started with that.
Yeah, exactly.
So microinsurance is a key part that we're seeing going to take off, because the way insurance has been designed really for Europe is slightly different from like Africa, right? Like, people earn a little bit and they earn daily. So it's being able to design products that micro, so people can pay a little bit, and then products people can pay for daily, weekly, monthly, not like annually, right? So microinsurance is a key trend that we're seeing on the continent. It's taking off. Excited about a few big brands doing that. I was actually having a conversation with AXA in Morocco, and they're also trying to like launch. It's super new in Morocco, and they're also trying to like launch microinsurance products. So that's big. And then embedded insurance, obviously saying how can you partner with big consumer brands and people who already have trust and access to consumers to be able to distribute instead of you trying to like distribute yourself.
Wonderful, brilliant. Henry, thank you so much.
Thank you
Enjoy
very
the rest
much.
of your day.
Thank you.